Good afternoon, ladies, gentlemen. Thank you for being here. I know it's a difficult time of the day, towards the end of the day, but I'll try to keep it short and I'll try to keep it crisp, relevant. Um I only have 10 minutes, so I'm going to be quick. It's more about giving an overview rather than getting into the details, right? Quick show of hands. How many sitting in this room today are retailers? Okay, great. Thank you. Uh, so I'll begin with just a very quick introduction. We are talking of success in retail analytics. So what is retail analytics? Uh, Again, uh, simply the art of deriving business value from the data that you collect out of no effort. You're collecting data because you need to collect data, and this is the ability to drive value from it. So since we know what retail analytics is, quickly, how do you define success? Some KPIs here, these are actual numbers. This is ROI that certain retailers have derived from whatever solutions we have provided to them. Uh, the question is, how do we measure it? Firstly, how do we get there? Secondly, how do we measure it? So again, 10-minute session, I am only going to talk today about do's and don'ts, right? And we can always talk offline to get there. 3 myths and 3 mantras, right? So let's jump straight into the myths and mantras. I'll start with myth number 1. I hear this from almost every retailer that I talk to. And they're not wrong when they say that I already have a BI, because everybody who's sitting here, right, today has some form of data mining, data reporting that we all use, right? But two things, just because we have a BI doesn't mean that we are successful with meeting the objective. And secondly, BI is not that software that you have. BI is the whole journey of processification of how to make sense of that software, right? It's a journey. It's a journey. If you're already collecting data, how do you bring that data into reports? If you're already doing reports, how do you make your reports smarter? If you've already got smart reports, how do you add inferencing to that report? If you're already doing reports and inferencing, how do you go ahead and get one or two machine learning algorithms which helps you do recommendation? So it is a journey, and I will be talking a bit more about that journey today. I'll go on to the next myth. The reason I'm pausing is I would like you to read this appropriately. If you're rubbing your eyes, data is the most valuable resource in your company. And if you're wondering whether I misspelled it, it should be a mantra, not a myth. I am not. I call this a myth. When I started my BI journey about 15, 20 years ago, this was mantra number 1 for me. So what changed? I realized that this is the most misunderstood mantra. And the damage it causes when it is misunderstood is so bad that I prefer now to tell people that do not go with this as a mantra. What are we doing as retailers? We all bring in data like sales, purchase, transaction data, stock data into a large Excel sheet, right? And then we are looking at that Excel sheet and we are trying to figure out what problem can we spot out of that, right? So what's wrong in that? Let me explain what's wrong in that with a very short story. This story is from this book called Alice in Wonderland. I think as kids we all have read it sometime somewhere. You know, Alice has fallen down the rabbit hole and she's trying to find her way back to the garden. At one point, she asks the Cheshire Cat, just for context, the Cheshire Cat is one more character in the book, but the Cheshire Cat represents Alice's subconscious mind, who she seeks out to whenever she's confused. So at one point in the story, Alice is asking the Cheshire Cat, which road should I take? So the cat rightfully asks her, but where do you want to go? So Alice said, I don't care as long as I get somewhere. Important thing is what the cat replied back to her. He said, in that case, any road will take you there. So now what's the analogy? Let me put this correctly. You are Alice. All of us as retailers are Alice. And the data that we collect is the cat. So when Alice used to ask the cat a very pointed question, the cat was her best friend, philosopher, and guide. But when Alice is asking such a random question, the cat cannot help. Likewise, if you know what problem you're seeking and then asking a solution of that problem to your data, that is when the data is going to help you. So if I take a very simple analogy from the Mahabharata, think of it this way. Data is your Sudarshan Chakra. It is not your Krishna. The difference is, don't expect data to be your savior. When you stop thinking that data is going to be your savior, that is when you'll start focusing on your business problems. And the moment you start focusing on your business problems, you will automatically go back to data to find the solutions. So the journey has to start by asking the right questions. I'll go forward. I promised you 3 myths, but I've given you 2. I'm jumping onto the mantras. I will come back to the last myth, right? This is in continuation with my last slide. So how do you go about this journey, right? Like I said, define the problems, define the root cause, and then build the report. Again, let's take an example. We all collect our transaction data into an Excel. I'm just using Excel because de-link yourself from thinking that BI is a software, right? Think of it as a tool. So we all collect data. What kind of questions can we ask this data, right? Or what can we infer from this data? You can look at your store-wise sales this year, compare it with last year, and find out which are your stores doing well and not doing well. You can do the same thing on a category level, on an item level. Which are your items selling well? Your fast-moving items. On the other hand, which are your items not selling well, slow-moving items? There's a reason for both of these to exist, because you are looking for a problem. Because if you spot a problem, then you can actually solve the problem, and that is going to make your business better, right? So please understand that nobody asks you to define all the problems at one shot. Don't worry yourself if you feel that I haven't got all my questions listed down. If you've got 5 questions, that's a great start to begin. Because even if you manage to get 3,000 questions to ask, I will come and tell you 300 more that you missed out. So you will never cover the gamut. Don't worry yourself about being comprehensive. Take any one question. Now that we've got a question, what do I mean by defining the root cause workflow? Let's take the first example I said. You've got your stores listed and you're trying to find out which of your stores are not doing well. Not doing well means what? Well, you could say that stores which are performing less than what they were doing the same last year, their stores not doing well. Or you could have targets for your stores and you can say stores which are doing less than 80% of target are my stores not doing well. Now while this is a good thing to know, by knowing which of your stores are not doing well, does that help your business? It does not, because according to me, that's where your problem starts, because now that you know which stores are not doing well, you'd like to know why they're not doing well. Then de-link yourself from data when you're doing this thought process. What you've got to say is, okay, these stores are not doing well. Why are they not doing well? So logically, as a retailer, I would say, are there some categories specifically which are not doing well? Are there certain items which are not doing well? If you identify items which are not doing well, what is the reason they're not doing well? As a retailer, I know that if sales drops, my first instinct is to see whether it was a stocking problem. So you bring in stock, you check if stock is there or not. And we're not talking about current stock. You bring in stock historically because it was not doing well last month. Looking at current stock may not give you the answer. So you can actually bring in to figure out that item which is not doing well, how many times in the last 1 month did it run out of stock? So that is going to tell you what is really happening. Now, what did I just do for you is I ran you through one use case where this is the way you look at diving into a problem, and you will notice that while you were diving into the problem, I managed to peg data points to specific steps of solving your problem, right? We said sales last year compared to sales this year, growth comes up, right? We said stock, we said number of days out of stock. These are then intuitive now to help you to build the report. So begin with the business problem, begin with analyzing the business problem. When you're doing that, don't think of data, don't think of Excel, don't think of reports. Because if you do that right, the report is going to be the easiest part that you work with. Quickly, what does this mean? Even after you did your root cause analysis and finally built the report, by knowing that these items in these stores were badly stocked, does that help your business? Well, it does not. Because unless you act on that information, on that intelligence, it's not going to make a difference to business. So what has to happen is after you've got that insight, you have to have somebody, let's say the category manager, the merchandiser, he has to make a requisition for stock to the warehouse has to send the stock, the store has to receive the stock, right? The last mile, which is what we call action, is the key to actually make business intelligence work for you, right? So there are techniques today where you can even automate the action part of business intelligence now. BIRetail has a tool technique that we call transactive analytics. We've trademarked that technique, and that's an amazing way to do that. All right. The last mantra, before I tell you the last myth. Now, you'd probably say that it's so easy for Niraj to stand up there and give all this gyan, right? How easy is it to implement all this? How much time does it take, right? So you can do all of this together. What I gave you is a very quick, simplified process of using your data work for you, right? You can do it yourself. I've had retailers who've done it themselves. Or you can actually even go out and seek help from specialists. I have given 18 years of my life to data analytics. Like me, there are lots of people in the world who actually help retailers make sense of data. Now, what you've got to understand, or what we've seen, is retailers who do it themselves are likely to spend 3x to 4x the amount of time to get to the same value than when you outsource it. What am I saying? I'm saying that you have to ask yourself this question. How much can your company afford to pay to do something in 12 months, which probably can get done in 3 months' time? And I don't have the answer to this. I would like each of you to actually answer it for yourself. Figure out what that cost will be. Figure out what is the cost of probably getting an external consultant or a company to do it for you. Work out your equilibrium and then take a call, right? But when you work out that equilibrium, don't forget to put a value to your time. Because we've had retailers who thought they could do it themselves. Some of them have been successful, but a lot of them have actually spent 3 to 6 months trying to do it themselves. And after spending 6 months, they realize that they need help. Then they've called us in, and in the bargain, it's been a double whammy for them. They wasted 6 months, and they've also then had to incur the cost of getting an external consultant. So we're talking about cost, and the last myth in everybody's mind. I don't use BI, or I don't get to a specialist like this guy standing on stage right now because it's expensive. So why do you think it is expensive? I mean, you may think it is expensive firstly because Niraj has just stood up here and said, this is a journey and it's going to take time, and you feel that you don't have the time and you don't have the patience, so you don't have the bandwidth to do it. So while you heard Niraj say that BI is a journey, you must remember Niraj also said that while you think big, you have to start small. You start small, you start with doing 3 use cases, 3 problems, solve it. Don't go into a tool, but do it on Excel, right? It's not the technology, it is the process. You can do it on Excel. If you solve 3 business problems in a proper manner with a structured workflow analysis, you will actually get enough returns on that to actually invest into the next step where you might want to start building inferencing. If you start building in inferencing, you will actually start seeing an uptick in the metrics like increased revenue, optimized inventory, which has a monetary ROI to you. So your business will start saving money. And that money that your business saves, you take part of that and invest it into the next step, which is saying, let's go and build one or two AI ML models, and let's get recommendations in place. So what I'm saying is every step that you take is probably automatically going to fund the next step that you plan to take in BS. So believe me, it looks ominous, but it is a journey that you need to start on today, and it will pay for itself. And if you think that, we can't do it ourselves and then we have to go to a consultant and these guys are expensive, believe me, they're not. Look at me. I'm standing here. I am so passionate about retail, about analytics in retail, that I'm always available. Reach out to me. I'm happy to talk. And I don't charge for talking, right? And if you go to a right consultant, nobody will tell you, or the right consultant will always tell you to take a step-by-step approach. They may help you build a blueprint, and if they do that, you will realize that you actually don't need the consultant if the blueprint is in place. All right, guys, so I'm sorry we've run out of time, and I've run through my 3 minutes, 3 mantras, but I'm available if anybody has questions offline. If anybody wants to reach us, these are our connects. If somebody is in a hurry and doesn't want to wait until you go home, you can type biretail.com on your mobile right now. There is a button for WhatsApp. Click on that, send us a message right now, and we'll reach back to you. Thank you. Thank you very much.